My sister and I have always been close. Even when we were younger and I was born, there were none of those tantrums and stomps that other siblings take on when they feel that their position in the family has been threatened. She took to being a sister instantly and was the proudest toddler you ever saw, showing me off to anyone that would listen. At least, so I've been told. This bond stayed strong as we grew up. Stephanie was always the creative one. Every painting and drawing, she was very good at it, incredibly gifted. She entered her work into competitions frequently, and often won the local ones, before proceeding to the bigger, more serious regional competitions. She relished it. Rather her than me, though, I, personally, always preferred more exciting activities, like running around playing sports, or doing martial arts. The day soon came when she won her biggest competition yet. I was sitting in the living room watching TV when it happened. She erupted through the door, hands stained with oil paint. "I won!" she shrieked at me, waving a letter in the air. I grinned at her, assumed by her enthusiasm. As if that's a surprise. "Another trophy for your collection," I teased and hugged her, pleased by her excitement and delight. "Come see, I didn't get a trophy this time. I got a different kind of prize." She beamed at me, radiant. I followed her up the stairs to her room, just across the hallway from mine, on the first floor. Our parents' room was on the top floor, where they mainly stayed on their rare occasions they didn't come home late from work. This floor was ours. I walked in and paused. Her newly acquired prize hung on the wall, opposite her bed. I thought it looked perfectly hideous. But then I did not know much about art. I trailed off, trying to be polite. "It's a classic piece. Apparently, it's over 200 years old," she gushed, wasting no time filling me in on the monstrosity. It was huge, depicted a snotty-looking family of 4. 2 stern, sinister parents loomed over the sneering children. A girl and a boy. I mean, I suppose it wasn't too bad if you're into that sort of thing. But to me, it was just creepy. The eyes of the family seemed as though they were following you around the room. And the look on the girl's face in particular was most menacing. Her dark eyes seemed full of spite. I wouldn't want to sleep with a monstrosity looking down on me, I can tell you that. I nodded along, trying to sound suitably impressed, waiting for her to finish. When she finally did, out of breath, I took the opportunity. "Hey, Steph, want to come down and play on the PS4 with me?" "Sure," she agreed, and much to my relief, we headed back down the stairs, painting forgotten. Gradually, over the course of the next week, I noticed a change come over Stephanie. She seemed to become more withdrawn, and her eyes were rigged with tired purple shadows. I often caught her rubbing the large scar on her forearm, a remnant of a surgery sustained years ago. This was something she only did when she was worried or anxious. I assumed she was just tired from school. I knew she had been studying hard, as her GCSEs were approaching. So I did what I could to cheer her up. But she seemed to get even worse. She was never mean to me. That wasn't her way. But she did seem drained and furtive, often jumping at small noises, her green eyes darting around. One day, about a month after she had won her competition, she had changed completely. She became angry and sharp, and snapped at me constantly. By dinner, I had more than enough of this new side of my sister. I decided to confront her. I didn't know what her problem was, but I refused to put up with her rudeness anymore. If her parents had been more interested in their children rather than their work, maybe they would have done something. But as they weren't, I steeled myself for her newly affected temper. I walked up the stairs and paused in front of her bedroom door. Before last week, she never used to shut her door. But she was like a new person now. My fist hovered over the wood panel before deciding that courtesy was a two-way street. I pushed the door open and marched in. Steph was laying on her bed, the remains of her broken easel on the floor. I looked from her to it on my guard. Stephanie loved her easel. For the first time, I began to feel a little afraid of my sister. She looked at me, a knowing smile toying around her mouth, her eyes reflecting contempt. "What do you want, brat?" she hissed at me. All of my angry thoughts died in my throat. My eyes flickered to the painting on the wall, and I swear I felt my heartbeat falter. The girl in the picture, she looked different, sad. The look of cruel disdain that had hung on her face was gone, replaced with a look of fear and sorrow. Her green eyes stared out at me, one hand on the scar on her forearm. My eyes snapped back to Stephanie. I hadn't heard her move, but she was suddenly in front of me. She smelled odd, like musty leaves, a damp, old smell. I backed away and ran into my room where I slammed the door, breathing hard. The floorboards creaked in the hall, and the door handle pushed down. I sat silently, my body holding the door shut. After a pause, the pressure of the door against my back abated, and I heard Stephanie retreat. I skipped dinner that night. I strained my eyes against the darkness. I cannot move. My clothes feel stiff, an old-fashioned high collar digging into my neck. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the shapes of other people. My eyes adjust to the darkness, and gradually I can see a figure in the room. I seem to be looking down on her. I think it's a her. It has long hair. I can hear a muffled sob to my left, but I cannot move. The figure in the room moves, slowly walking out of my field of vision. I feel as though I am suffocating. I gasped and jolted awake. It's got dark outside. I suppose that I'd fallen asleep after my confrontation with Stephanie. My radio alarm clock glows in the darkness. 1:53 a.m. My heart won't stop hammering. I lay there for a while, not moving. You know that feeling you get after a nightmare, where you feel that you're being watched? That's exactly how I felt. In that hyper-alarmed state, I heard movement across the hall. Stephanie must be awake. I edged out of the bed and sat with my back against the door, holding it shut again. It's not that I'm scared of her. I just feel safer that way. In the quiet of the night, I could hear footsteps. I hunched against the door, inexplicably scared. It's just my sister, isn't it? I slept across the hall from her my entire life. I feel the lightest pressure against my back. Someone is trying to open the door. I clutch my laptop closer to me, typing as quietly as I can. I'm scared to move, scared of what might happen to me. Please help me.